Hello everyone, welcome to this video. In some of the previous videos, we have discussed many properties of Riemann-Stieltjes integrable functions. So now in this video, we shall discuss some of the algebraic properties of the Riemann-Stieltjes integrable functions. In that, the property one is like this. Let f1 and f2 be bounded real valued functions on the closed interval a comma b, and alpha be any monotonically increasing function on the closed interval a comma b. If f1 is a Riemann-Stieltjes integrable function and f2 is a Riemann-Stieltjes integrable function, then f1 plus f2 is also a Riemann-Stieltjes integrable function. That means sum of any two Riemann-Stieltjes integrable functions is again Riemann-Stieltjes integrable, provided they are defined on the same closed interval. And further, the Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f1 plus f2 is equal to Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f1 plus the Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f2. Or in simple words, Riemann-Stieltjes integral of the sum f1 plus f2 is equal to the sum of the Riemann-Stieltjes integrals of f1 and f2. So this property in simple words says that sum of two Riemann-Stieltjes integrable functions is once again Riemann-Stieltjes integrable. So that means the set of all Riemann-Stieltjes integrable function on any closed interval a comma b is closed under the addition. It is closed under the addition. The proof is very simple. You shall see it. So by Riemann criterion for integrability, to show f1 plus f2 is Riemann-Stieltjes integrable, first of all. So there are two parts in this theorem actually. In the first part, we have to prove f1 plus f2 is a Riemann-Stieltjes integrable. Later on, we have to show that the integral of the sum is sum of the integrals. That is, integral of the sum of the Riemann-Stieltjes integrals is sum of the Riemann-Stieltjes integrals of f1 and f2. So this will be the second part. So first, to prove f1 plus f2 is a Riemann-Stieltjes integrable function, for every epsilon, we have to show the existence of a partition P such that so the condition with respect to the Riemann criterion for integrability has to satisfy. So just we shall verify it. So for that we need an epsilon. So start with an arbitrary epsilon. Let epsilon greater than 0 be given. Now use the fact that f1 is a Riemann-Stieltjes integrable function and f2 is also Riemann-Stieltjes integrable function. So as f1 is a Riemann-Stieltjes integrable function, for every epsilon there is a partition p1 such that u p1 f1 alpha minus L p1 f1 alpha will be less than epsilon by 2. So just I am arguing the Riemann criterion for the value epsilon by 2. Similarly, as f2 is Riemann-Stieltjes integrable function, there exists a partition say p2 such that u p2 f2 alpha minus L p2 f2 alpha can be made less than epsilon by 2. So call this as equation 1. Now, this is the partition P1 with respect to the function F1 and P2 is the partition P2 with respect to the function F2. So define P to be P1 union P2. Then by the definition, P will be nothing but a common refinement of the partitions P1 and P2 because P contains P1 and P also contains P2. So by this condition, I can say P is a refinement of P1, P is a refinement of P2. So P will be a common refinement of P1 and P2. So now we use the generalized Riemann criterion. So first of all, Riemann criterion says that for any epsilon, there is a partition. For example, with respect to the condition, f1 is a Riemann-Stieltjes integrable function. For any epsilon, there is a partition P1 such that UP1 F1 alpha minus LP1 F1 alpha will be less than epsilon by 2. So this is nothing but the Riemann criterion. Riemann criterion. But so there is generalized Riemann criterion. We have verified it. So generalized Riemann criterion says that so not only this condition holds for the partition P1, rather it holds for all the refinements of P1. So this condition also holds for all refinements of P1. So that is for any refinement of P1, so this condition holds. Now P is a common refinement of P1 and P2. That is P is the refinement of P1, P is the refinement of P2. So now by using the generalized Riemann criterion for integrability, so equation 1 not only holds for P1 and P2, rather it holds for all the refinements of P1 and P2. And P is a refinement of P1 and P2. So equation 1 holds for the refinement P also. So this is by generalized Riemann criterion. So it is UP F1 alpha minus LP F1 alpha will be less than epsilon by 2, and UP2 FP F2 alpha minus LP F2 alpha will be less than epsilon by 2, right? Where what is P? P is the common refinement of P1 and P2. So any common refinement will also be a partition of closed interval a comma b. So take that partition P to be with the points x0, x1, x2, xn minus 1, so on, xn. And we all know that any partition of the closed interval a comma b divides that closed interval into n subintervals, that is x0 to x1, like this. So if this is the closed interval a comma b, so any partition of closed interval a comma b means it is collection of finitely many points from a to b. So the first point of the partition will be always a, and the last point of the partition will be always b. And in the middle we will consider sum of finitely many points. So with respect to these points of the partition P, the closed interval a comma b can be divided into subintervals like this. So x0 to x1, x1 to x2, x2 to x3, so on, xn minus 1 to xn, right? Next, now we shall define f1 of x plus f2 of x to be f of x. So f is the sum of the functions f1 and f2. As f1 and f2 are bounded real valued function, their sum will also be bounded. As f1 of x and f2 of x are all bounded, so obviously f of x will also be bounded, and as these two are real values, f of x will also be real value. So f will be a bounded real valued function on closed interval a comma b, as f1 and f2 are bounded and real valued. So now we have three functions on the same domain. So f1 and f2 and the function f1 plus f2. So all these three are bounded real valued function on this closed interval a comma b. So as they are bounded on the closed interval a comma b, they will be bounded on the subintervals, each subinterval also. So on each subinterval, so each of these functions are bounded. That means so f1 of x, f2 of x, and f1 plus f2 of x, that is f of x. So all these values will be bounded in each of these intervals. So as they are real numbers which are bounded, so their infimum and supremum obviously exist. So as f is a real valued bounded function on the closed interval a comma b, it will be bounded on each of the subintervals. So on this subinterval f of x is bounded means it will be having infimum and supremum. So call mi as the infimum of all f of x's, as x varies over the closed interval xi minus 1 xi, and capital Mi be the supremum of the same values. Next, define the same thing for f1 and f2. So infimum of all f1 of x's, call it as mi dash. Supremum of all f1 of x's, call it as mi dash, capital Mi dash. And with respect to f2, mi double dash and capital Mi double dash. So we have defined infimum and supremum of f of x's in each of the subintervals, so that we can use these to define the upper Riemann-Stieltjes sums and the lower Riemann-Stieltjes sums. So with respect to these terms, mi capital mi dash capital Mi dash, mi double dash and capital Mi dash, we observe that the inequality mi dash plus mi double dash will be less than or equal to small mi, which will be less than or equal to capital Mi, which will be less than or equal to capital Mi dash plus capital Mi double dash. So this inequality holds. So just to verify it, for any x in this subinterval, so f1 of x's. So for all these values, mi dash is the infimum. So it is least upper, greatest lower bound. Sorry, greatest lower bound. So it will be a lower bound first of all. So mi dash will be less than or equal to f1 of x for any x in this interval. Similarly, for all f2 of x values, mi double dash is the infimum. So mi double dash will be less than or equal to f2 of x for any x in this interval. So now take the sum of these two inequalities. So mi dash plus mi double dash will be less than or equal to f1 of x plus f2 of x, but it is f of x. So what that means, for all x in this interval, f of x's are bounded below by mi dash plus mi double dash. That means this term acts as a lower bound for f of x values in this interval. But for f of x values as x in this interval, so they have infimum, and infimum is mi. So mi is the infimum of all f of x's as x varies on this interval. And mi dash plus mi double dash is a lower bound. So this is a lower bound, and this is the greatest lower bound, that is infimum. So greatest lower bound will be always greater than or equal to any other lower bound. So we got the first inequality, mi dash plus mi double dash is less than or equal to mi. Now to prove the other inequality, so we have to deal with the upper bounds. So as we all know, capital Mi dash is the supremum of all f1 of x's, and capital Mi double dash is supremum for all f2 of x's as x varies over this closed interval. So Mi dash, that is capital Mi dash plus capital Mi double dash, will be greater than or equal to f1 of x plus f2 of x, which is nothing but f of x. That means f of x values are bounded above by capital Mi dash plus capital Mi double dash for all x values in the subinterval xi minus 1 xi. But in the same interval, f of x values have the supremum mi. Supremum means what? It is the least upper bound. So mi is the least upper bound. Capital Mi dash plus capital Mi double dash is a upper bound. So any upper bound will be greater than or equal to least upper bound. So capital Mi will be less than or equal to capital Mi dash plus capital Mi double dash. And this middle inequality is obvious because small mi is the infimum, capital Mi is the supremum. So infimum will be always less than or equal to the supremum. So we got the inequality. Now to this inequality, multiply non-negative value delta alpha I. Multiply delta alpha I to this whole inequality. As delta alpha I is non-negative, the inequality remains the same. And this holds for all I. So for every I, so this term is less than or equal to this, less than or equal to this, less than or equal to this one. So taking the terms, taking the sum of these terms, so sum of all these terms will be less than or equal to sum of these terms, less than or equal to sum of these terms, less than or equal to sum of these terms. So this summation will be less than or equal to this, less than or equal to this, less than or equal to this one. So now just split the first and the last summations. So first summation is summation small mi dash plus small mi double dash into delta alpha. So on splitting, we will get two terms. So finally, we have this inequality. Now, what is summation mi delta alpha I running from 1 to n? So what is mi? It is the infimum of f of x values. So summation small mi into delta alpha will give you LPF alpha. That is the lower Riemann-Stieltjes sum of f with respect to the partition P, as mi is the supremum of f of x's. Like, so what is mi dash? So mi dash is actually the infimum of f1 of x's. So this summation will be lower Riemann-Stieltjes sum of f1 with respect to the partition P. Similarly, mi double dash corresponds to infimum of f2 of x's. So this summation will give you the lower Riemann-Stieltjes sum of F2 with respect to the partition P. Similarly, argue for the capital MIs. So if I consider capital MI into delta alpha I, so this summation will be nothing but the upper Riemann-Stieltjes sum of F with respect to the partition P. So capital MI dash corresponds to supremum of F1 of X values. So it will be upper Riemann-Stieltjes sum with respect to F1, and this will be the upper Riemann-Stieltjes sum with respect to F. So finally, you will get this inequality. Call it as equation 3. So using these two parts, so UP of alpha is less than or equal to UP1 of alpha plus UP2 of alpha, and the other way LP of alpha is greater than or equal to LP F1 alpha plus LP2 F alpha. So using these two inequalities, consider the difference UPF alpha minus LPF alpha. So first of all, UPF alpha is less than or equal to UPF1 alpha plus UP2PF2 alpha minus, so LPF alpha is actually greater than or equal to this sum. So minus LPF alpha will be less than or equal to minus LPF1 alpha plus LPF2 alpha. So now take the terms of F1 and F2 separately. So UPF1 alpha minus LPF1 alpha plus UPF2 alpha minus LPF2 alpha. By equation 2, both are less than epsilon by 2. So hence UPF alpha minus LPF alpha as made less than epsilon. So that shows that given any epsilon, we are able to find a partition P such that UPF alpha minus LPF alpha is less than epsilon. And this is nothing but the Riemann criterion for integrability. So thus, by Riemann criterion for integrability, the function f, which is f1 plus f2, is Riemann-Stieltjes integrable on the closed interval a comma b. So as f is a Riemann-Stieltjes integrable function, by the definition, Riemann-Stieltjes integral, that is integral a to b f d alpha will be equal to the lower Riemann-Stieltjes integral is equal to the upper Riemann-Stieltjes integral. So as f1 plus f2, that is f is Riemann-Stieltjes integral, lower Riemann-Stieltjes integral is equal to the upper Riemann-Stieltjes integral, which is equal to the common value is taken as the Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f. So this is by the definition. So now this, up to this, we proved that f is a Riemann-Stieltjes integrable function. That is, sum of the two Riemann-Stieltjes integrable functions f1 and f2 is also Riemann-Stieltjes integrable. Now further, we have to show this one. So integral of the sum of the Riemann-Stieltjes integrable functions f1 and f2 is equal to sum of the Riemann-Stieltjes integrals of f1 and f2. So now to prove this condition, so start with the Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f. So as it is a Riemann-Stieltjes integrable function, so this integral will be nothing but the lower Riemann integral value. So how we will define lower Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f? It is defined to be supremum of all lower Riemann-Stieltjes sums. So supremum of all these values will be obviously greater than or equal to each of that value, right? So supremum of all lower Riemann-Stieltjes sums will be greater than or equal to any lower Riemann-Stieltjes sum. But LPF alpha, by equation 3, inequality 3, LPF alpha is greater than or equal to LPF1 alpha plus LPF2 alpha. Next, use equation 2, that is inequality 2. By inequality 2, LPF1 alpha is greater than UPF1 alpha minus epsilon by 2, and LPF2 alpha is greater than UPF2 alpha minus epsilon by 2, or it is nothing but UPF1 alpha plus UPF2 alpha minus epsilon. But what is UPF1 alpha? It is upper Riemann-Stieltjes sum of f1 with respect to the partition P. Now take the infimum of all such upper Riemann-Stieltjes sums. Then the infimum will be less than or equal to any upper Riemann-Stieltjes sum. Similarly, take the infimum of all upper Riemann-Stieltjes sums of f2. So infimum will be less than or equal to any upper Riemann-Stieltjes sum. But what is infimum of all upper Riemann-Stieltjes sums? It is the upper Riemann integral of f1. And infimum of all upper Riemann-Stieltjes sums of f2 will be nothing but the upper Riemann integral of f2. So minus epsilon as it is. But as f1 and f2 are Riemann-Stieltjes integral functions, so their lower Riemann, that is upper Riemann-Stieltjes integrals are Riemann-Stieltjes integrals. So they will be equal to Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f1, and this will be equal to Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f2. So that is, we get Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f is greater than or equal to Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f1 plus Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f2 minus epsilon as it is. Similarly, as we used the lower Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f, now we shall use the upper Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f. So Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f is equal to the upper Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f, as f is Riemann-Stieltjes integrable. So how we have defined the upper Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f? It is infimum of all upper Riemann-Stieltjes sums of f. So infimum is always less than or equal to each of the terms inside that infimum. So it will be less than or equal to UP of alpha, but UP of alpha in turn is less than or equal to UP_f1 alpha plus UP2P_f2 alpha using inequality 3, and using inequality 2, so UP_f1 alpha will be less than LP_f1 alpha plus epsilon by 2 plus UP_f2 alpha will be less than LP_f2 alpha plus epsilon by 2. So taking epsilon at the end, so LP_f1 alpha plus LP_f2 alpha. So where this is a lower Riemann-Stieltjes sum of f1. So take the supremum of all such lower Riemann-Stieltjes sums of f1. So supremum will be greater than or equal to any lower Riemann-Stieltjes sum. And similarly take the supremum of all lower Riemann-Stieltjes sums of f2. So supremum will be greater than or equal to any lower Riemann-Stieltjes sum of f2. And what is supremum of all lower Riemann-Stieltjes sums? It is nothing but the lower Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f1, and this will be nothing but the lower Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f2. But those lower Riemann-Stieltjes integral will be just Riemann-Stieltjes integrals, as f1 and f2 are Riemann-Stieltjes integrable. So finally we obtain Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f is less than or equal to Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f1 plus Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f2 plus epsilon. Now observe 4 and 5 carefully. So observe 4 and 5 carefully. So by 4 and 5, as epsilon is arbitrary. So here epsilon is arbitrary. So we can choose epsilon to be negligibly 0 by choosing epsilon to be very smaller and smaller. So this integral will be less than or equal to this, and by 4 this integral will be greater than or equal to this. So one is less than or equal to the other and vice versa. So finally we obtain the equality. So Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f will be equal to Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f1 plus Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f2, because in 4 this is greater than or equal to this one, and in 5 this is less than or equal to this one for any arbitrary epsilon value on the right hand side. But epsilon can be made as small as we desire. By choosing epsilon negligibly 0, we obtain this is greater than or equal to this, and this is less than or equal to this one. So as it is greater than or equal to and less than or equal to this, it will be equal to this. It cannot be either greater than or less than. It has to be equal in common. So that shows that integral Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f is equal to Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f1 plus Riemann-Stieltjes integral of f2. But what we have taken f as, it is f1 plus f2. So the Riemann-Stieltjes integral of the sum f1 plus f2 is equal to the sum of the Riemann-Stieltjes integrals of f1 and f2. So thus, this property says that if f1 and f2 are any two Riemann-Stieltjes integrable functions, then f1 plus f2 will also be Riemann-Stieltjes integrable, and the integral of this function will be sum of the integrals of these two functions. So this shows that the set of all Riemann-Stieltjes integral functions on a given closed interval is closed under addition, because addition of any two Riemann-Stieltjes integrable function is again Riemann-Stieltjes integrable function.